First question, Rajesh. A lot of talks on AI, a lot of talks on everything which is tech in the last 2 years, and suddenly the world has shrunk again big time. The biggest impact, I think, both on the industry side as well as the confusing the student a little more. But what would you like to tell the students here? The impact of AI, how to take it, how to be prepared for it, or use this as an opportunity, Rajesh?
Yeah, so what I would tell students is stop watching all those Hollywood movies where AI is shown in a sinister fashion, right? AI is not going to be sinister at all. And then a lot of things have changed, and these things come over the cycles, right? For instance, a small story that I experienced as a kid. My dad was a career banker with SBI. And one day, he was, usually he goes to office on Sundays as well. So one day he was at home and I asked him what happened, and he said his staff is on strike. And I asked him, why is the staff on strike? He said, primarily the tellers are on strike because they're introducing automation in the bank. And those tellers felt that they will lose their jobs over a period of time. It's it's a different thing that all those tellers took the sponsorship from the bank to learn the computers, and they moved into the EDP department of the particular bank. So at that point of time, when they felt that they are going to lose the jobs, it's not actually has happened. So what has happened is they have reskilled themselves, and they have either gone into an EDP department in a bank, or they ended up taking up newer roles. For example, 15, 20 years ago in the banking industry, you didn't have a relationship manager, you didn't have a wealth manager, you did not have a loan officer, you did not have an underwriter. But today, if you look at that same banking industry, the kind of roles that have emerged are quite different. So what has helped these people to tide over the change process is their willingness to learn, which is basically in terms of unlearn, relearn, and then redeploy themselves. And that's exactly what is going to happen in the world of artificial intelligence. Today, we have a factory model of churning out engineers in India, which that factory model, the other countries also want to replicate it. While we using that factory model to churn out those engineers have to make a little bit of a course correction in terms of the kind of the tools that they become familiar with, right? Like Shrikant has mentioned earlier as well. The discipline of engineering has changed quite a bit, and so is the case when AI comes into the picture. Today, while AI is being used to generate a lot of content, 80% of it is unreliable and unbelievable. And I'll also give you an example. I recently engaged Gemini, which is Bard, erstwhile Bard, and then I asked Gemini to share 10 unknown facts about Anand Mahindra. And then it said the first entrepreneurial venture of Anand was to sell the photographs that he took as a kid. Right? And I sent it to Anand. I WhatsApped it to Anand and said, this is what Bard is going to say. He said, absolutely crazy. Right? So it is generating a lot of content which is not reliable as well. So it's going to bring what I call as the trust deficit. Those things aside, the interesting things that it is going to do is, ability to convert a legacy code into a new age code. Many large companies in the world today still run on mainframes and the legacy code, right? They are absolutely scared to touch it. But now there is a prospect of using a generative AI algorithm and apply it to that legacy code and see how that legacy code can be generated into a new age code. So the course correction that these engineers or the professionals need to do is how to use those particular tools in a right sense, and what is the additional inventory of the skills that they need to acquire. And a good inventory of skill that they need to acquire, which is what we were taught in the school as well, is the spirit of inquiry. That's where the prompt engineering is going to come from. If you don't have a strong spirit of inquiry, you won't be able to come up with meaningful prompts. So it kind of ties down to some of the basics that we have learnt in the school, where our professors have kind of asked us to foster that skill of the spirit of inquiry, which is going to work very well in the world of artificial intelligence as well. So this is how it is going to shape up over a period of time.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Rajesh. And I still remember, बचपन से हमको बोला है सत्य की खोज करो, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
everybody, when we were growing up, they want us to do satya ki khoj. So prompt engineering and satya ki khoj, if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers. Okay. Next question to Raghu. Raghu, as representation of NASSCOM, you do work with a lot of startups as well. Mid-size, small, new age, deep tech, etc. What do you see as your experience of this entire, demand-supply paradox that we have for those startups, and what is it the necessary steps that are being taken to address that in your sphere?
See, on the challenges, if we see, first of all, thank you for having me here. If we see the industry challenges, if we take one step aside and see the last 6 years, the kind of disruption every sector has faced is unprecedented, starting with pandemic, followed by geopolitical stability, and followed by technology disruptions. So there are challenges on business, along with the challenges on talent, right? Again, there are conventional challenges with talent in terms of skill gap, in terms of retention, and with pandemic, there is a widespread talent across the nation. Now, we see talent everywhere, which is a good problem to have. So the important point is what are the measures taken to overcome it, right? Whether it's early stage startup, a mid stage enterprise, or a large enterprise, the steps taken to overcome these challenges. So if we see a technology sector point of view, which is what I would like to share a couple of points, technology sector has been very pivotal in the growth of the entire segment. Despite of several disruptions, tech sector has seen a positive growth, right, in the last couple of years, and as we stand today, it is $254 billion revenue generating segment with 5.4 million workforce, and with a strong diverse workforce of close to 36% women, right? And these challenges of diversified or spread over workforce have also given opportunity to reach various geographies. We see a lot of tier 2, tier 3 centers picking up in tapping large potential of talent across these segments. So these and of course not the new block, the most prominent kid across the block, the Gen AI. In the recent survey, we see a lot of enterprises have committed their spend on building Gen AI capabilities. So it's a two-way street. One, of course, the academia coming forefront, building those partnerships with the relevant tech players to build the capacity to the students, and of course again industry also moving that hand to bring the practitioner's point of view to overcome these challenges, to build or reduce the skill gap, to bring solutions close to reality. So these are few aspects which we see is happening, and India leading the AI wave. I think with the inevitable India, as everyone speak, there is a large demand on with talent and technology are taking a center stage for every enterprise, as Mr. Rajesh said, to reimagine, to rewrite, to their entire growth pattern. So we see a lot of opportunities for the ecosystem, for the academia. It's more how these enabling initiatives will help them leverage the most out of it and reduce the skill gap.
Thank you. I like the word inevitable India. I like it. From incredible India to inevitable India. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Raghu. Ramesh, Dr. Ramesh, you have been leading this organization, I think last 2 years you mentioned. It's into product, it's into digital infrastructure for banking. As a product leader, this company and yourself, what's your experience, right? I mean, and you have a mix of a global presence outside India and India. What's your perspective on this entire scenario right now? Would love to hear from you.
Sure, thank you. I think it's probably the most pertinent topic of how do we manage the talent paradox, because whether it's a product company or a services or any other industry, without talent, I don't think it's going to move forward or there will be any progress, right? So, while many points have already been called out, first is my perspective being on both industry and academia side is that the temptation to have a very short-term view needs to go both from the industry side as well as the academia side. And Professor Desai called out that an industry looks at it from a quarter-on-quarter versus a few years. I think I was fortunate to experience both sides. And that temptation is very much there today. While we talk of wanting solutions, from the industry we want them to be quick fix, turnkey, very point in time, which is not always the right scenario. Similarly, academicians, I think Shrikant called this out, right? That the first conversation always is about, can you come over for campus placements, right? So, the moment the short-term view goes out, there is a possibility for a more meaningful conversation. That's my view. Second, both sides need to adopt a more supply chain type of a view, right? If you take an automobile industry, the supply chain is set up in a way that it's always for the long run. There are partner, dealer tie-ups, there are spare part tie-ups, there is a whole set of experts who are always associated with the spare part dealers or others. There are panels that are conducted, there is a huge amount of testing that's conducted before even a single nut or a bolt goes into a car, right? So I think that supply chain mindset needs to come in, whether it's a service company, product company, or any other industry, which will then automatically shift the view from a short term to a more medium term, long term. And thirdly, very important, well, there's a lot of talk of AI. I always call this out. One of my passion is to talk about emotional intelligence. The PI model that Shrikant called out, or the T model we had, I will put a foundational bar below, which is, call it the Roman letter 2 model or I model, is the NI, which is the natural intelligence. In all this buzz and noise that we are hearing about all of these, most students, unfortunately, maybe for no fault of theirs, are severely lacking, or they need desperate help on that, is how do we deal with this constant influx of information, and how do we build that natural intelligence, right? Make it stronger, the emotional intelligence. And our entire education system has been on who's got the best marks, who's going to the top institutes, who's scored the maximum. And we are all part of it. Let's admit it, we are all part of it, right? So, till that obsession with only top institutes, top marks, top percentages it's there. We will have this same dialogue again a few years down the line. If we really want solutions and this to work, we'll have to step away from that. I think those will be my 3 things. Focus on foundational aspects from a student side as well as industry side. And since I'm on both sides, I'm being blunt about it. Yeah.
Fantastic. And artificial intelligence versus natural intelligence is not the thing. It's AI plus NI. Fabulous. Nice. I'll use that in some of my panel discussions as well, Doctor. Thank you for that. Rajesh, coming back to you, right? AI disruption, it's just become synonymous. But I think this could also be the moment for our country. What do you see how we can all come together as a community, right? So that's what we're trying to do. But how can we do it? How can we really make it happen? Any prescriptive steps that you can suggest?
Yeah, in terms of the best prescription that one can give is based on the model that has worked for us in the past, right? When I was setting up a financial processing services company along with Raman way back 10, 12 years ago, at that point of time when I used to go to any bank or a financial institute, they used to give the example of a China Union Pay. And they used to say China Union Pay is the world leader in the financial processing, and China it exceeded India by a very, very wide margin from a digital payments perspective. And now if you look at, China is trailing far behind India from a digital payments. Recently there was also a WhatsApp forward that was showing a timeline how India has raced much ahead of China. So if we decipher in terms of what has happened, one, I'm not saying that we should bring in another demon exercise. That will be disastrous. So I'm not saying that you should bring in a demonetization experience. But what has happened is there was a clarion call from the Honorable Prime Minister and also the others saying that you should teach other people how to do digital payments, right? Today, now it's quite possible, I'm not trying to demean, but it's quite possible that a beggar on the street may teach other person how to accept a digital payment, right? They know how to start using the digital payment. So if you take that particular model, can we do the same thing like one teach and another person with regards to artificial intelligence? Can we replicate that particular model in terms of, first of all, what is AI? And here the focus is not on technology, the focus is on outcome. And one good example is Uber. If you tell your granny that Uber has cloud, Uber has robotic process automation, Uber has machine learning, she will throw the phone away, right? You're not going to tell her that. You're going to tell her that if you want to go from point A to point B in a safest and the cheapest manner, here is an app that will work for you. That is outcome and an experience led rather than focusing on the underlying technology. So is the case with AI, where you have to focus on what is the experience it is going to deliver and how it is going to make one's life a lot more simpler and easier. So if you bring that particular narrative forward and use some of the models that have helped us in the country and replicate it, then we will be far, far ahead when compared to others in the world of artificial intelligence. Whether it's artificial intelligence or natural intelligence, the idea is to make things better for an individual.
Yeah, exactly. And I do foresee that there is a requirement for AI for grandparents as a session too sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, AI for kids as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
In terms of, it's not only for grandparents. Maybe if you make the experience easier, it may turn the tables and the grandparent may be teaching it to the kid.
Wow, that would be interesting. Thank you. Thanks for that. Raghu, next question to you. We were discussing during our ISE meetings and as well, there are a lot of policy recommendations around fellowships, internships, already with AICTE and other education bodies. But what could be done to make it really more meaningful, right? We had a couple of viewpoints in the morning session, but just to make it more programmatic, if you could share some of your viewpoints, and we will also try to incorporate that as part of this ISE policy framework, yeah?
I'm sure you will put me in spot. So, see, my point of view is the policy is mainly enabler to provide the basic access to facility, to mentorship, to enhance the knowledge and experience. Let me share my, experience. When I've started my career, I've, worked for a manufacturing organization where the training period was 1 year. So we were told to have a 6 months, just the training across various departments to understand how the business functions, and then 6 months on the job for a specific department which we will work in to understand how the workflow and what needs to be done and how it works, so on and so forth. For the first 1 year, it doesn't make any sense because as a youngster, we always wanted to jump on, the project, live project which is in progress and be the star, take that, award and good grant money and so on and so forth. But at the end of the year, we realize the actual sense of, imparting the training. It's not just to directly enhance our tech and soft skills, it is also to embed the cultural fit into the organization to see if we can, have the same vision of what business is taking. So these any initiative which will enable, of course, we have chief guest and Shrikant sir and all the panelists have impressed upon the practitioner's point of view to understand the application per se, to have the right solutions in place. So, and I was also, looking for one of the, reading one of the podcast where one of the leaders said, do not get fixated on what you want to do. Focus on, your fundamental aspect of what the problem is and how will you approach to do it, and take every opportunity it comes. This will lead you, in a right path. So I believe the stress upon the foundation of the problem skills, inculcating the cultural fit for with the enterprises. These things, will take along for any individual or also enterprises to have a long-term, strategy.
Oh, perfect. That's a very important point. And I think that leads to the question to you, Dr. Ramesh. Cultural fit, when you're hiring people, you cannot really make out in the first few interviews, 5 hours, how culturally fit this person will be to my organization. What are the basic tenets that you follow while hiring processes, right? What kind of mindset this person has? Anything that you can share, our students here will benefit a lot.
Yeah, great question on that, and very valid in how they get selected, as well as what we typically look at, especially in a product type of scenario, is that ability. We've talked so much about solving problems, right? If you extend that further, is there a bit of a design thinking mindset? We, of course, in 30 minutes, 1 hour, you can't find out all of it, but in the past, even if you're studying during your engineering days, what are some of the activities? I typically, for instance, look at beyond the academics. I believe IQ is there with everybody nowadays. Everybody has a very high level of IQ. What are some of the areas where this IQA has been applied? B, I talked of the emotional angle, right? Have you been able to take that mindset forward on addressing some very practical scenarios in your institute? Second thing is the dynamic aspect, right? Beyond the academics, have you also participated in various activities that are helping in the institution building? For instance, have you been on some committees? Have you been part of anything environment friendly, right? So where you can see that passion coming out of your what you have done there. The third thing I think is very clearly a can-do. We talk so much about it. There are no ready-made solutions in any place. Is that can-do spark or that attitude coming through in your actions so far, whether it's in your engineering or even outside? So if that ability, I think, matters a lot. In fact, in our current organization, it's one of our values, and that can do also brings out the sense of entrepreneurship, and it's not always waiting for direction. Culturally, unfortunately, India has been a bit of a direction taking scenario, and it used to hurt me when so many of my clients, and when I was on the consulting and services side, despite the best efforts, they would always point out that if you have a floor, everybody is waiting for instructions rather than standing up and saying something is wrong and this is how I'll solve it, or this is how we'll do it, why don't you listen to us? So that I don't, and even unfortunately our organizations don't encourage too much of that. Yes. That's a reality, right? So I think these 3-4 things as a combination are what we would broadly look at in a selection process, right?
यहाँ पे कोई क्वेश्चन पूछता है तो बोलता है अरे क्रांतिकारी आ गया. We don't want.
I call that out because it's not just the students. We as people who are interviewing them need a mindset change.
We do, and I think 25 years back we were getting interviewed, and we were talking like that, and now we want the other person to just tone down a little bit and work in a.
Just to add to what Ramesh has mentioned, all wonderful points, Ramesh. Only one thing that I wanted to mention is we seem to be living in a world where fake it till you make it seems to work, but when it comes to culture, faking it doesn't work. And it takes 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes for an experienced person to figure out whether you're faking it or you're really saying it. So for God's sake, don't ever follow that practice of faking it.
Brilliant point. Thank you for that. And I don't have any questions to you guys, but I just want, for the sake of the initiative, for the industry academic connect, 30 seconds each one of you, what is the commitment that you guys can make? And I'll start with Dr. Ramesh.
Sure.
For taking this initiative forward. And this is getting recorded.
Yeah. After this, I'm going to get this tattooed on myself as well. So my commitment clearly is, I've shared this with both Manish and Pankaj already, is that I'll be there to share my experiences, and I clearly told him I don't want it to be a one-off sharing, would like to be associated probably with the full batch for a longer time, and quite frankly, I'm done with turnkey solutions and quick fixes, right? So that's my commitment.
Oh, thank you. We have already counted you in. We sort of volunteered you already for that. So thank you. And Ramesh, I think there's lots to do together. There is, I see not just through the organization that you're working with, but in your personal capacity. I think even if we can influence the students a wee bit with the learning that you have, that would be immense for them.
Sure. And I'll be more than happy. One last statement that applies to both all of us is, personally, I keep reminding myself, is this will need a lot of patience and perseverance. I hope that's something that we are all, FTCCI especially with as the institute that's bringing everybody together, and Talent Farm, while we'll commit, it'll need a lot of patience to get the required outcomes, right? So Pankaj, I'm only looking at you here. So thank you. Thanks again for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ramesh. Good point. Raghu?
I'm already part of this ICT, so please don't ask me any more commitment. I am already committed. See, from NASCOM standpoint, we are always with, we support these initiatives which are the enablers for the industry, academia, and all the stakeholders. We are committed to work along with industry and academia to make it happen, make it, a large success. And yeah, I am with Srikanth sir. If given a choice, even I want to be part of this youth. At least I can tell I am part of youth.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's not the reality. Thank you. And Raghu, your massive network that you have on the other side, I think we will drill into that a lot as we go forward. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yes, to you.
Yeah, from my side, 2 points. One is in terms of, after so many accomplishments, I made one decision 18 months ago, which finally made my dad to say, "Nalayak se layak ban gaya." Because I decided to do PhD, which my dad did way back in 70s. He was one of the few PhDs in the world in grape culture, viticulture. Then it's a different thing that he went down the career path with a bank. So that was his cherished ambition to see his son with a doctorate degree. So I finally decided to do, and that to juxtapose that to what Professor Saab said earlier, enlightened self-interest. So with given my PhD journey and my enlightened self-interest, being a professor of practice comes naturally because it's of my enlightened self-interest. So if you have to marry this both, I'm happy to contribute probably 8 to 10 hours in a month to the student community, which I am committing to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajesh.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.